Black man.
Do you want to get out of the situation that you're in?
What is the reluctance for taking responsibility for improving our communities?
Are your children better or worse off as a result of your involvement?
Why wouldn't you be happy with your son being gay?
Why are you so violent?
Why do you have that take mentality?
Why are you afraid of being intelligent?
Why?
Why?
What I want to know is why.
I'm Dometi Pongo with Our News Now on 1690 WVON, and I'm here at the Douse Museum of African American History, where we're taking a look at an exhibit called Question Bridge, African American Males. We look at conversations between 150 men as they talk about a whole range of issues. One of the executive producers of this project was Delroy Lindo, and I had a chance to sit down with him and discuss some of the things behind the project and a bit about his career and why he got involved. Let's take a listen. I'm here at the Douse Museum of African American History with Mr. Delroy Lindo. Now, he's been such a pivotal force in film for the African American culture, for movies so monumental for the culture like Malcolm X, Crooklyn, Romeo Must Die, Gone in 60 Seconds. Give me some more. What am I forgetting? So many.
Side of House Rules.
Side of House Rules. This Christmas.
This Christmas, Soul of the Game. And I played Satchel Paige, and that's also one that I'm really proud of. So,
and even a TV show that means a lot to us here in Chicago. Code.
Chicago Code, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had a good time on that, yeah.
Absolutely, and thank you for being here. Now, we're here as a result of this project, Question Bridge, that is really innovative, really interesting. Explain to us what this is.
Wow. Question Bridge was, first of all, I'm an executive producer of Question Bridge, and how that came about was because the two creators of Question Bridge, a young man named Chris Johnson, whose original brainchild it was, teamed up with a wonderful photographer artist, Hank Willis Thomas. They got together and put this project together, and essentially what it is, it's black men from all different social strata, different geographical locations, black men talking to each other. The point of the project is to show the world that black men are not monolithic. We are
Absolutely.
We're vastly different beings. And essentially the way that the project works, and I'm giving you the kind of cut to the chase version, but the way the project works, and the exhibit, I see you having the exhibit here, is that one black male will ask a question in, let's say, Dallas, and somebody in New York City will answer that question. It's all on film, on video, and it's a number of interviews that were conducted over a 2-year plus period. They've compiled the material, and that is the basis of the Question Bridge exhibit.
You know what I love that you brought, I was going to bring that up as well, the fact that black men are not monolithic. I was hearing the discussion about, for example, the use of the N-word, or how the slave experience for African Americans shaped our ideology in some ways, and the different point of views on those.
Yes.
Were there any recurring themes that kind of surprised you that you didn't think that you would see or hear?
Okay. This may sound like a really obvious response, but one of the most recurring themes is the fact that we all have different opinions about things. You know, I mean, while on the one hand, my own participation in the project, the day that they came to my house to film me, it was kind of rushed. I was rushing, they were rushing, and I've always been, especially compared to some of the other things that other young men say, some of the men say, I've always felt like my responses were a little bit superficial. However, one of the things that I did say that afternoon, and it is true, it was true then, it is true now, and that is, on some level, the only thing we have in common is that we are black and we are male, right?
That's interesting.
That's a point of departure. But then you can go in many, many different directions in terms of philosophies, ideas, all of that make up who a particular black man is.
Now, when it makes me think about how you approach, because you've played different types of black men in some of your characters, and I thought about Chicago Code and kind of that Chicago connection, right?
Right.
And so we talk about that black folks don't all think the same. I remember I was reading an article just this morning. We were talking about the push for a mayor before Mayor Rahm got elected. There was supposed to be, they tried to make a consensus on one black choice.
Yes. Yeah.
And black folks don't have, we have different interests, right? Because we fit in different pockets. Was there anything that you learned about Chicago politics as you?
That's a great question. And you know what? I was really fortunate in as much as because I happened to be here working at that time.
Oh wow!
I got invited to a number of those meetings.
Okay.
And so I was in some of those rooms witnessing what was transpiring, and it was, man, I can't pretend for 1 second to understand Chicago politics. I don't.
None of us can.
But it was a really interesting eye-opener in terms of the various points of views. Okay. And, I mean, there was the community piece. There was the spiritual and religious piece. All these leaders, all these people coming together, trying to come to consensus. And I'm not going to judge that process, but what I will say is that it was really, to see it up close like that, and to see that, unfortunately, consensus could not be reached, saddened me, frankly. It saddened me. But at the same time, it was, I kind of got some sense of why it was happening. Right. Because there were very, very many disparate points of view in those rooms, all trying to come together and reach consensus. And as we know, it did not happen.
Now, as we bring that back to Question Bridge, what are some of the takeaways? I know one of the key takeaways will be some constructive dialogue. But what are some of the takeaways? I'll
tell you this. There's something that has always been central to the things that I think about. And one of the main things I feel having to do with being a black male is that there are so many people who are afraid of black men. There's no space for our fear because we are so concerned about allaying other people's fears.
Exactly.
And the thing that always occurs to me is, well, wait a minute, what about the things that concern me? What about the things that I'm afraid of? The thing that gets lost oftentimes, and this is a very elementary thing to say, but the thing that gets lost, we are human beings.
Absolutely.
We are human beings. We're not this alien thing. We are human beings. And every single feeling and emotion that any other human being experiences, we experience those things. And not infrequently, I don't think there's enough space made for that. Now, that is not to excuse rather our faults and our foibles. It's not to excuse those things, but oftentimes I feel that people are so concerned being afraid of us, there's no space for our fear.
That's amazing. That is amazing. When you think about some of these projects like this that can shape the consciousness of America, do you ever feel that it's hard to get these on a platform where you can get backing from a large studio or Hollywood?
Yes.
Has that been a struggle for you, and in what way?
Well, I'm not sure I'm not really sure because I'm not close enough to Question Bridge. I'm not involved in Question Bridge on the day-to-day in the trenches level, right? But I say this without a shadow of hyperbole. This project is potentially a paradigm-shifting project. This has the power to change if it gets out. If the exposure to Question Bridge is broad enough. And I also want to say this: for me, ultimately, Question Bridge is international in scope. It's not just about America. Certainly, America has particular issues around race, as we all know, and as a result of that, issues around black malehood. But this is an international, a global project that has the power to change if people come to it with sufficiently open-mindedly enough. I feel that there is the potential for this project to fundamentally change how people view black men. But one of the most important things is that people have to, the thing about being open-minded and a willingness to negotiate their own fear.
Wow.
And a willingness to just, in terms of how these men communicate, you have to have a willingness to accept our humanity. And in that humanity encompasses many positives, many negatives, but the fundamental reality is we are human beings expressing who we are in our human conditions.
I wanted to let you go, but I couldn't without having you delve a little deeper into what you mean by negotiating our fears. What does that look like, and what does that mean?
Okay. Wherever appropriate, giving expression to our fears. Black men in particular are sometimes, and I include myself in this, we're trapped in a box. We're trapped in a box having to do with what it means to be a man. I mean, I guess one of the most common misconceptions having to do with, well, men don't cry.
Right,
well,
right.
yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay? And if you cry, if you have the capacity to cry, does not make you weak.
Exactly.
That's one fundamental.
Gotcha. And we don't express that vulnerability
We
in
do
our
not.
public discussions, which makes it more easier for these forums to demonize us in a lot of ways.
For sure, but
because
I'll
we
tell you
really do
what. This is where somebody like yourself and all those of your generation have the power of the future in your hands, because you do not have to be trapped
that. Absolutely.
and imprisoned by the same kinds of things that, for instance, my father's generation was trapped by, and on some level I'm trapped by. You guys can change that paradigm. So on some level, while it is not your total responsibility, because fundamentally it is all of our responsibility, but the younger people, we used to have a saying that says, the young people of the future, and you are. And you have the ability to change things in ways that perhaps my generation couldn't and my father's generation could not.
I'm Dometi Pongo, and not only will this discussion be valuable for those on WVON, but for me as well. And I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us and to shed some light on what this project is. And as valuable and as powerful this conversation was, the project is that much more important on an international level. Again, I'm Dometi Pongo with WVON 1690 AM Talk of Chicago. Thank you so much for tuning in.